Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and you take time to listen into the podcast. And because you've been such a faithful listener, you helped us get ranked in the top 5% of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you for doing that. And thank you. And if you would keep the podcast going, I know sometimes you might not think about it, but it really helps if you rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. It really does. It's a big help. All right. So today I'm talking with Dr. Tracy Powell. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Tracy. She's an internationally known award winning author, speaker, and practical leadership expert. She's the author of the book Practical Leadership Lessons Learned from Mickey. And I can't wait to hear more about that. She brings a wealth of experience, including 16 years of active duty service as a scientist officer to her speaking and coaching. And her career journey has been marked by resilience and purpose. And that's why we're talking with her here today. Welcome, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Robin. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Me too. I'm excited for you to be here because I know you have a story, and I was mentioning to you earlier that I believe will be inspiring. It's just good for us to hear each other's stories. All right.
Absolutely.
Now, you heard me just mention a little bit about
Yeah.
sort of a brief introduction,
Mhm.
but tell us in your own words about two things, who you are and what you do.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm Dr. Tracy. I've been an executive coach for over 15 years now. It's something that I love doing. I love working with women and helping them reach their goals and really finding their purpose, but doing it with self-compassion and compassion for others. I didn't get here overnight. It was a journey and a struggle at times. We look at people in business and we think, oh, they're doing so great and it seems so easy, but that was not my journey. My journey was a lot of stop and go, and refining and building my coaching business, really focusing on, who that avatar was, but being okay and recognizing that at times it changed and being okay with that change. So, in all of those challenges, I use them as opportunities to grow my coaching business, to write my book. And my book, Practical Leadership Lesson Learned from Mickey, is about me as a leader, growing up as a young leader. I got into leadership in my early 20s. So I was very young and I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know things about myself and I didn't know things about leading, but I learned as I went and I asked questions and I got help and I got coaches and I grew in the process. And so that's why I encourage so many other people. It doesn't matter where you are when you start, your growth matters. Take that time to grow and to learn, and then everything works out as it should. But you also have to love and care for yourself along the way.
Yes. All right. So you mentioned you had learned these lessons early on that you didn't
Yes,
know
yes.
them. So tell us about your early career journey.
So early on in my career, while in working on my doctorate degree, I was working at a university in a position that was very high level. I'm working with health disparities, and in that position, I was also in graduate school, but also leading. So I had to learn how to properly delegate. I had to learn how to show up when I didn't want to show up, and I didn't have the confidence to show up. But really showing up and being still as I showed up. I had to learn how to communicate my thoughts and feelings without emotion at times, without projecting. I also had to learn how to show others compassion, how to try to, through communication, talk to people about their daily lives, get to understand them, and try to find out what's going on. Because management is more than projects and processes. It's about people. And when you get to know people, they do better. Excuse me, they do better and you do better as you all work together. So I had to learn strategies to get to learn my staff for them to open up and want to work with me because I was so young and they were much older than me. And so I dealt with the generational difference and the gaps in generations working early on as a leader.
Okay. All right. So we'll stay with this conversation around your
Yeah.
career. All right. So you mentioned in there, all right, you're in a doctorate program. All right, so now let's back up a little bit. All right, so then when you were little Tracy, did you say, "Hey, when I grow up, I want to be in a doctorate program"? Like, so how was this journey unfolding?
No, little Tracy did not say she wanted to be in a doctorate program. The Tracy in the doctorate program said she did not want to be in the doctorate program on those hard days. I called them crying Wednesdays. Oh, those were some rough days. But I knew growing up that I always had leadership skills. I knew that I was always the leader. My parents recognized that in me, and so they afforded me opportunities to lead and be in talent shows and to publicly speak and do other things. So I knew that I wanted to lead, or back then as a child, I wanted to be in charge. But
You
I
knew
didn't,
that. You knew that as
I
a
knew,
child.
yes, I knew that as a,
Wow.
yes, I wanted to be in charge of everybody. I still do, but my family don't let me, but I still try. No one listens to me in the family. But I knew that growing up, I could recognize that because I saw things strategically. I saw how pieces could work together. And you know, and I always, when I see another child with these same skills, I always say to the parents, watch that child, develop that skill. Develop when you see children taking initiative, you know, doing things without you asking them, asking questions. You embrace those questions because those are leaders developing. They're curious. They want to know. They want to put pieces together. And so that was little Tracy. And then as I progressed through school and got into the doctoral program, where first I learned in my master's program, I got a master's in social work, that clinical practice wasn't for me because I wanted to make change on a bigger level. I started off with the clinical track, then I went to the macro track because I wanted to work with communities and organizations because again, I wanted to see change. I wanted to help people get the resources they need, but also work with the organizations to provide those resources for people. And that led into my doctoral program.
Okay, all right. So this is good. This is fascinating. All right, let's go back
Yeah.
a little bit more. I know it's a
Okay.
lot, so you're like, okay, let me just give you the overview, but I want to go back to some in
Yes.
between here, especially because you knew early when you were young, you knew you were like you want to be in charge, so you had that
Yes.
much, right?
Had that
And
much.
it sounds like your mother and others could see that
Yeah.
you had
Mhm.
this in you. All right.
Yes.
And so now, as you were going up, what happened in between? Like you said, you were focusing on you kind of health, and you knew you wanted to work with communities. So let's walk through how you got to that point. And side note, I too was in social work, and I started, and many people don't know this. I started to get a master's in social work, but I did work as a social work for a while and then and went in a different direction. So anyway, you and I sort of have that in common. All right, so you're bringing us up to,
Yeah.
in charge, and now,
Yes.
yeah, and you want to do some sort of leadership. Okay, so tell us about your career journey in between there.
So in between there, I started out, my first job was at McDonald's. That I was 60 years old, and that was like the best job. And what I noticed now that I reflect back, my second job was like at a Wendy's, and then I started working at a courthouse. So things progressed. But as they progressed, I noticed that people will call on me to take on responsibilities where I work independently, giving me bigger projects to do on my own without the micromanagement or a lot of guidance. And I recognize in myself that, hey, I'm doing this, you know, it's kind of like those aha moments. And that just continued throughout my life. I worked for HIV and AIDS organization in undergrad and did a lot of work study jobs that afforded me opportunities to lead younger in college. And I encourage people to do that because sometimes you learn more as a young leader than you do as an adult leader. It's okay as a young leader to make mistakes, to learn to grow. But as an adult leader, sometimes those things are not as forgiving. So I really appreciated those opportunities to manage projects on my own, to do things and for people to trust me. And that was a big thing for me. So throughout my jobs, I just found myself leading and working and taking on things. And I was always the go-to person because I'm very organized. And
Ah.
people like that skill too. I am definitely type A. all day long. So, so
Okay,
that helped my journey as well.
I want to interrupt you for a second because
Yes,
I want people to get this because you're already showing us a pattern. But
yes.
before I do the pattern, what was your major in undergrad?
In undergrad, I majored in sociology.
Sociology. Okay. All right. So this is for everybody listening and for this pattern here, right? So we had little trace, some leadership developing, right? You
Yeah.
knew that, right? And then that's a hint for people who, if they're trying to think through now, what's the right thing for them to do that will bring them meaning and purpose? Look at your young self and see. You might not have been so clear like Dr. Tracy, but you might have some hints from what
Yes.
you were doing back then that may
Mhm.
help you now. So look at your early years and what other people. So that was one
Yes.
lesson from your journey. Here's another one. All right, as you were going along in your jobs, even in your first jobs, like at McDonald's and other places, other people helped you see what you were good at doing
Yes.
because
Yes.
they kept asking you to do those things.
Mhm.
So that's another lesson for people. Look at how people what they compliment you on, the things that
Yeah,
you've been promoted to.
absolutely.
These are all
Yep.
clues and
Mhm.
indicators to help
Mhm.
you get to where you want to be. And for everybody listening, especially if you don't have the experience that Dr. Tracy and I both have in terms of years, this might
Mhm.
save you some years.
Yes, yes. Some heartache in some years. Yes, yes, yes. And don't discount the little things. So I did not realize how organized I was until I started working at Wendy's grocery store. I was stocking shelves and I love organizing the laundry. All the detergents, all everything. And so it was so organized. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I love organization. I love structure. I love organization. So as people look back, don't discount those little things that you enjoy doing. If you love coloring, that is creativity. That leads to something. So just I would get a piece of paper and reflect on all those things that made you happy, and you will be amazed of how you see them in aspects of your lives now, and hold on
Yes.
to them.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, all right. So you were in college and you're
Yes.
taking on these leadership roles. Okay, so now let's pick up from there.
Yes. So I was in college taking on leadership roles, and I just kept doing it. I kept learning. I kept getting jobs, and as the jobs got bigger, they got more difficult. And as I began to get bigger jobs, that's when I began to feel the resistance of the generational difference in the workplace. And it's there. And I think that people have to recognize that there are generational differences. How do you overcome them? Talk to people, find out what works for people, what doesn't work for them, but know yourself, know what works for you. I am a morning person. So I can come in the office early and do all of my work and be available to some of the people that come in around 9 or 10, that they're more afternoon people. So I had to identify strategies that work for me. And I think that helped me excel into bigger positions. Now, I had challenges in positions as well. I had challenging managers and supervisors. I had supervisors that didn't like me and didn't support me, but that cannot stop you from showing up. It can't stop you from doing your job. It just is an opportunity to learn yourself and to grow. And that's what I did during those times.
Was this in the health field? Like what area of what
It
industry
was
were you in?
it was in health, working at the university shortly after I finished it. And I've experienced um, opportunities for growth throughout my career. It wasn't, there's always an area that comes up. And I look at, as I accept a new job, okay, I think what is coming up this time? Because I feel like new jobs and new opportunities is there to make us grow. They're not there to be smooth sailing. They're not there to just be a cakewalk. It's an opportunity for growth. And when you look at it like that and those things come up, even if the challenge is not you and it's other people, it helps you develop strategies to communicate, to problem solve, to be compassionate, to show empathy, to be supportive. So there's always an opportunity, regardless of the situation, to serve and give back.
Right, right. Okay, so now speaking of serve and give back, you have 16 plus years of active duty service.
Yeah.
Where did that fall in your career journey?
That falls towards the end. towards the end, and some of that I'm finishing up right now. So and that as a scientist officer, meaning that I have a PhD, and some of that focus on epidemiology, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So that falls throughout. That is throughout my career, always working in healthcare, healthcare administration, healthcare jobs, doing things related to health and public health. So they are all consistent.
Yeah, that, because this is my first time hearing of such a position or role, because I don't typically get to think about it. So again, somebody listening that might, oh, that's an opportunity. And I don't know if I want to encourage people to get a PhD, but I don't want to discourage them either. And this
Exactly.
is an opportunity. I mean, this is something to see. Hey, there's other things you can do with it.
Yes, yes,
There's
yes,
lots of things. So your
yes.
journey helps them see that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you make it yours. Whatever you get your PhD in, you can do academia, you can do government, you can do state, you can do community, or you can do your own business. You have to be willing to pivot and make it your own, and make it create a better you. And that's how I looked at it. So I was never pigeonholed, if you will, with any of my degrees. I really stretched them to do other things and do get other certifications so that I can expand on what I wanted to do. And I think that really helped me advance that diversity.
Yes. All right. So now you have this rich history of learning and growing and pivoting and doing things. And now you're at this juncture in your career. Would you say you have purpose in your work and in your life?
Yes, I would. I would say that I definitely have purpose in my work, and my purpose is to continue to build, not only myself but those around me. My purpose is to teach people about building with compassion and leading with compassion, because I think at some point we've lost that in the workplace. COVID has brought some of that back, but we're not where we need to be, where we recognize our teams and our leaders as people with problems, as people with concerns, as we are,
Mhm.
and treat them as such every day in the workplace. Work can't always be about work. It's about people. People make up the workplace. So
Mhm.
that is definitely my purpose, is to tell everyone who will listen that if you lead with compassion, people will be more productive, and it increased productivity at every level.
You said that in such a clear way. How did you come to know that that was your purpose?
Trial and error, trial and error, and just really working with people, taking the time. I've had some employees that had some major struggles, health struggles, emotional struggles, struggles with skills, and just, not judging, but sitting down with them at one-on-ones and saying, let's talk about all of it. Let's talk about every aspect of your life that's stopping you from moving forward. Because if the person is not happy, the work is not going to get done. And
What
if
about
it
the
get,
work? I'm sorry, go ahead.
and if it gets done, it's not going to be a good product. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I agree. So how did you know when you were doing the work that this is my thing? Like, oh, this is my, you know what I mean? Was there a point where you knew, or did it just kind of was implicit and you didn't realize, and one day you woke up and said, "Hey, I'm doing it." So tell us about
One
that.
day, so I did not identify it as my thing. I thought I was just helping and serving and giving back. And one day, one of my great mentors told me, and I'll never forget this, we were in the elevator together, and she said, she was introducing me to someone else, and she said, "Oh, this is my coach. She's my fixer." And I'm thinking, what is she talking about? I'm just helping. And it was in that was my aha moment, that I'm always coaching people. I'm always
Mm,
helping them get from A to B to C. And then I'm fixing things. I'm always trying to fix and bring things together. So it was definitely that aha moment that I recognized, and she spoke that out loud in
yeah,
the atmosphere, and I received it, and
yes.
I began to develop it.
It's a gift to have people that know us and see us, right? And
Yes,
see our gifts and the things that we do. It's such a helpful thing to have.
it's very helpful.
All right. So now, this podcast is for women that I describe as high achieving, and they are looking for, you know, they have some level of success, but they're
Mhm.
unfulfilled. And so my hope is that this conversation inspire them. As we hear about others' career journeys of people who found purpose, it will inspire them, take away some
Mhm,
nuggets and that kind of thing.
mhm,
But I have a unique, well, I don't know if it's unique, but my own definition of high achieving women.
mhm,
So there are women who are responsible in all areas of their lives. It could be one or more of these. They're responsible, ambitious in a positive way. They're good at a couple things.
mhm,
They're the ones that people come to in their professional lives or like, let me just pick your
mhm,
brain or advice or what on
mhm,
anything. It could be related to their job or not. And in their personal and, family, community, life, neighbors, people come to them for advice. Could be about any random thing.
yeah,
Again, whether they know anything about it or not. So that they're that person that people
mhm,
come to and they're doing all the things. So that's the characteristic of a high achieving woman that I'm talking to. And now she's in her profession and it looks good on
mhm,
paper,
yeah,
but just like this is just not fulfilling.
yeah,
But other people would look at it and say, well, what do you have to complain about? But
yeah,
she wants more meaning and purpose in
so,
her life.
mhm,
All right. So now that you know who we're talking to,
mhm,
what's something from your experience? I know you had some hints early on, and then you had
yeah,
that aha moment
mhm.
about your purpose. But what's something you can share with her that might help her, no matter where she is in the journey, whether she's in her early career, mid-career, or even toward later years of her career? What's something you could share from your experience?
I would tell her because I am that woman and I've been that woman several times in my career is to be still and to continue to show up. Sometimes as women, when we get to that point of frustration, when things are not coming together, when we feel empty, when we feel like we don't belong anymore and this is not working, we quickly exit. And I think that's our greatest mistake because sometimes when we exit, we do it without plan and we do it without purpose. So I would tell that woman who I have been myself to be still, continue to show up as the best you. But while you're being still, listen, go back to that childhood experience, identify those things that were compassionate, loving, fun for you. Use that to be intentional about your next step. Never move for money. Always move with purpose and intention because of self love for yourself and for those around you. That's what I would say to her.
Yes, and I could hear her saying thank you. I can't literally hear her, but I hear her saying thank you. I mean, you share so much from your journey that I think are lessons and inspiration for people no matter where they are. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank
All
you
right.
for
So
allowing
now,
me.
is there something that I didn't get a chance to ask you that's popping in your mind now that you might want to, you know, add to the conversation before we tell people where they can be in touch with you?
Um, I want to tell all the women and men that are listening that 2025 is our year of confidence. We are all finding confidence in 2025. So show up with confidence. Be confident with what you're doing and everything. And something about confidence is we don't have it every day. It doesn't show up for me every day, but you can develop it through self care, through practicing, networking, building teams. Show it with confidence every day in 2025. And if it's not there, build it yourself. That's my message for the rest of this year because we all have to remember we have to show up with confidence in order to fulfill our purpose.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I'll add to that to connect it to have confidence that you will find your purpose if this is your
Yeah.
year that you're looking for it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. So if they're saying where we want to get in touch and hear more, where can they be in touch with you?
You can go to my website, drtracypowell.com, all together. You can send me messages on there. My email is drtracypowell@gmail.com. I'm always on LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn handle is Dr. Tracy R. Powell. So any of those places, you can definitely find me. I do webinars through Eventbrite every other month. They are free. I just did one on finding confidence in 2025, the relaunch in January. I have another one coming up at the end of February, early March. So check Eventbrite and just search for my name and you will see it. But I would love for you all to join me. They're free webinars, and then the webinars can tell you more about how you can get into. I have an upcoming community that I'm developing so that all of those women that you just defined can be together and really build off of each other as we build confidence and strength and purpose and direction for 2025 and beyond.
Thank you. And we'll be sure to put your contact information
Yes.
in the show notes for the podcast.
Yes.
Dr. Tracy, thank you so much for taking time and
Thank
sharing your
you.
wisdom with us and for your work and service. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'm like, we could just be here all day talking.
I know, right?
So thank you so much for having me and reminding me of those little small things that sometimes I forget that are the reason why I'm where I'm at today. And I'm very grateful for that. So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
I'm glad to hear that because sometimes they give us energy, a little added
Yes,
energy to keep going. Yeah.
they do. Yes, they do.
And for everyone listening, I'd love to hear your response to the episode. And you could, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on all the social medias, but I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. So head on over and let me know what you think about this conversation or how we could be more supportive of you. I'm at Robin L. Owens, PhD, Robin L. Owens, PhD. Love to hear from you. And so follow me on LinkedIn. You'll hear more about the work I'm doing with helping people find meaning, purpose, and fulfillment, and be the first to know when you can get on the wait list for my upcoming book, Becoming a Purpose Maker. Really excited
Yeah.
about it, and I can't wait to tell you about it. So follow me so you can be in touch with us there. All right, and until next time, this is Dr. Robin.